Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is at FeelThePaynePW, or Nick Payne if you prefer, and you're watching my 25th episode now on MyTeam career for F1 2020. This is obviously season 2, so if you haven't checked out my last episodes, then please go do so now. My last race, first race of the season, of course, was at Australia. We qualified in P8, so not the worst result in the world. We qualified just in front of our teammate, who I think qualified in P11, and then we sort of made up quite a few positions in the race and actually finished in P4, so a good result there, just finishing outside of the podium, so not the worst result in the world, to be honest. So as we come through, obviously our next race is at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and as you can see there, we've got the chance to renew our sponsors. We are going to renew them because they are good sort of targets, easy targets, and you get quite a bit of money for it as well. And something that I haven't done in the whole of the first season, something that I didn't actually notice that you could do, was actually buy little perks for your driver, which obviously improve a lot of different things. As you can see, there's a social media perk which we're going to buy, the power mapping, media coaching and development feedback, and obviously because they're not that actually expensive, about $500,000 each, but we can actually, because we've got over 11 mil after buying the first load, we're actually going to go through and buy them all again, but the only problem is once we've done that, once we've bought them all, we can't actually go one step further until we get to level 15, as we're currently on level 13, so it shouldn't be too long of a wait until we can get to that level to actually upgrade it again. But we're now on level 2 on all 4 of the perks. Leclerc is only on 1 on power mapping and social media team, so we have got the advantage there on our teammate as we come on through and simulating all the activities that we've done. And we can actually go through to the Bahrain qualifying now. As we come up this very long main straight here at the Bahrain Grand Prix, here on our first lap in the first qualifying session, of course, as we go deep into turn 1, make sure that we go straight across the apex, because if you don't brake at the right moment, then you could easily just sail off into the sort of runoff area, brake at the 100-meter board for turn 4, after the second DRS zone, of course. Then it's into the 5, 6 and 7 sort of turns and chicanes round. There's a sort of blue, darker blue point on the sort of design on the outside of the track past the curbing where I sort of brake there. This corner is very tricky. If you get it wrong, you do go very deep and easily could break a front wheel or damage the suspension as I go, sort of lose a lack of concentration there. And sort of take the car just over the line of the race circuit as we come around the final corner of turn 11 into turn 12, and we go across the line for sector 2 into sector 3 now. Don't forget, we're the last lap in this Grand Prix in qualifying 1 so far, so everyone else has set a time, unlike us who hasn't, as we come around the final corner, turn 13 into turn 14, and go to DRS, see what lap time it's going to be, and we go P4 in qualifying 1. Don't forget, we're just in front of our teammate in Charles Leclerc, and we actually stay in P4 and P5 through qualifying 1, so we do go through to qualifying 2, and this is our first lap in qualifying 2, and we did actually make quite a few mistakes, unfortunately, so it's only a P15, which does drop down to P16. But thankfully, when we do go out for our second lap, it is a lot better. We do improve actually to P9. That does see us through to Q2. But for the second time this season, we have knocked our teammate out in Q2. and he's down in P12 now as we go through to through in P9 as we come through on our first lap. And unfortunately it is a bad lap. We are on extremely old softs, so it does mean that we go P10, but when we go out for our second lap, it's a monstrous lap, nearly 2 seconds quicker than our first lap time, and we do go P2 in qualifying. So now let's see if we can get a win in the race.
The stage is set for another enthralling race here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. A Ferrari stronghold in years gone by, but will they be able to add to their record today? There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1 of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. The rookie lines up on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Albon, Ocon, Kvyat, Raikkonen, and Carlos Sainz. Verstappen, Leclerc, Lando Norris, and Perez, Gasly, Magnussen, Lance Stroll, and Antonio Giovinazzi, De Vries, Matsushita, Russell, and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So as you saw there, we actually are up into P1. We're into pole position now due to a grid penalty from Max Verstappen, who drops down into P11 so early on into the season with a grid penalty. But it's going to be a two-stop strategy today. We're going to overfuel the car. We're going to be pitting from the softs to the mediums. And we're just going to see how we can get on in the race as we go down to the grid. Down in P1, remember, or up into P1, should I say. We've got Vettel for company beside us. Then the Mercedes behind him as we get underway here. And it's a great launch off the start. With overtake straight off the bat with rich mixture. Make sure we're into the lead from the start as we're trying to go into the turn. So I think Vettel does make a late dive down on the inside at turn 1. Thankfully we do have him covered off and we do close the gap. But unfortunately for us, he does get a great leap out of turn 3. And he gets the inside lane out into turn 4. And unfortunately for us, we're down into P2 now. So not the greatest of start as we try battling back through turn 5, 6 and 7. But unfortunately for us, Vettel does have the power through there. Does have the better the line. He does have the racing line. And unfortunately for us, now we've got Hamilton behind us and Vettel in front of us. So we lost the position so early on in this Grand Prix. But we're just going to have to look to fight back and get it back as quickly as possible. But unfortunately for us, Vettel is just pulling out all the stops here just to push away from us down that main straight. Don't forget, we've got a Ferrari engine just like he does now. So it is a level playing field in the engine front. So, but unfortunately for him, our power unit upgrades are so much better than his. We're right at the top of that tree. So hopefully we can make a move here down this main straight as we get as close as we can into the braking zone. Round at turn 13 or turn 14 and 15, shall I say. And we're right on the tail. No DRS, of course, because it's so early into the Grand Prix. And we look to go to the outside as there's hardly any room around the outside or inside. We sail it round, brake later, and we just about look like we got the move done. And now we have, as we're up back into P1 once again. But Vettel could make another chance here down on the inside, just like he did on the last lap. But thankfully for us, we do have it covered, and we stay in P1 for the time being now with Vettel behind. Well, as we come through at the end of lap 5. Vettel has bogged down the order quite massively, going from P2 down to P5 as we're boxing this lap. Hamilton is right on our tail though. We're going to be boxing this lap. Hopefully we can get the undercut strategy on Hamilton and get as far away into the lead as possible. As we're coming into the pits now at the end of lap 6, going into lap 7. Hamilton can now go through just like Bottas will. And most of the other cars will go through as well. As we're coming into the pits. And it's hopefully a quick stop here so we can get in and out. Straight to the medium tyres. And it's a 2.7 stop here. A 2.7 stop, so not the worst pit stop I've ever had. But don't forget we pitted, boxed this lap in P1. And we're going to come out in P16. Just behind the Italian of Giovinazzi here. And Nick de Vries in front of him. Can we make a move here as quickly as possible? We need to get up the field through as many cars as possible so we don't get held up and the overcut strategy on us. We can't allow that to work, unfortunately. So we're going to be going through turn 7 here, and we've got Giovinazzi in front of us. We're going to make a dive down the inside at turn 8, squeeze through, and thankfully we're up another position here as we've got Nick de Vries just in front of us. Can we make a move here on Nick de Vries as quickly as possible? The newly appointed Haas driver, of course, coming from the F2 series. Can we make a move on the Dutchman? We're going to go down the inside at turn 11, and thankfully that's another position that we are up now, back into P14 with Magnussen up ahead, Stroll in front of him. But I do think that there should be, at this point, a couple of cars that are coming into the pits right about now, considering it's only a lap ahead of us. So that could be their strategy as we're coming round the final couple of corners in turn 14 and 15 up the main straight. And as you can see, Vettel is in the pits, Raikkonen is also in the pits, fitting the medium tyre, Ricciardo, Hamilton. So we will come out back in front of all the cars behind us now. So we are currently still in a net P1 for the time being. As we come across the line to end lap 8, for lap 9, Verstappen is in the pits. But more importantly, and more curiosity, Bottas is fitted the soft tyre. So he's on a different strategy to the rest of us, which could cause problems for us later on. As we're directly behind Magnussen now, as we cross the line for lap 12. We're going to look to go down the inside, do it early as well, don't let him muscle us out. We brake just that little bit earlier this time, down on the inside. We run over the curb slightly on the apex, but we're up another place now, and we've got the racing point of Lance Stroll ahead of us. We've got DRS. We're going to look down the inside, switch it back to the outside, and get the move done. Hopefully we leave him the room down on the inside. Fair, nice, clean driving, but we're up another place now. At lap 13, we're into P6, and we've got the next racing point of Sergio Perez up ahead. But as our teammate comes into the pits, who was on the medium tyre, remember, is now going to be fitting the hard tyre most likely, as quite a few cars are all gone into the pits. Norris has stayed out, who's now coming in one lap later. So we will retake the lead of this Grand Prix back into P1. Norris is fitted the hard tyre, so he's going to be doing a one-stop strategy this race, remember. And as you can see, Bottas, who was on the soft compound, is now pitted one lap earlier than us. So that could be sort of bad for us here, because he could get like an undercut strategy on us. As we're coming into the pits to fit our second pair of medium tyres, pitting in P1 once again, just like we did the last pit stop, of course. But we do have quite a bit of a large gap. It was 15 or so seconds to Ricciardo and such behind. It's a 2.5 second stop, but now all the cars are coming back through. Can we get past them as quickly as possible here? We pitted in P1 and we're down into P9, but the problem for us is there's a gaggle of cars up ahead, all doing one-stop strategy on the hard tyres. As we've got Gasly just in front, and we're going to make a dive down at turn 14 just before the final straight, and we're up another place now into P8. We've got Leclerc, our teammate, up ahead. We need to make light work of Leclerc here. get back into the lead if we can, and we've got Sainz in front of him. But don't forget, we're on the medium tyre. We should have the tyre advantage here, but that may decrease as the race goes on, so we need to make the quick overtakes as quickly as possible here, as Verstappen is in the pits now. So we do overtake him, and we're up into P4 here, so we're going to look to dive down the inside on our teammate. Careful not to make any contact whatsoever. We don't want to take our teammate out of this race, who's on a good sort of chance of getting some points here. So we're going to look to dive down the inside at turn 4 here. We're going to brake gently on the inside, let Leclerc round the outside. Careful driving by the two of us, it must be said, as we go through 5, 6 and 7. But thankfully for us, we're finally back in front of Leclerc, and we're up into what is a P3 now, as we've got Sainz and Norris both up ahead in the McLarens. Can we make a move here on Sainz here on lap 22 as we go through into turn 1, into turn 2, and there's actually a small bit of contact there as we open up DRS. There's a bit of a gap, but we're going to go for it. We need to make the moves as quickly as possible. We're braking, and we've hit his back wheel, and we've spun! We've spun, unfortunately for us here. We've dropped down the order, and we're back behind Pierre Gasly now, and Bottas is actually in front of us now, who, don't forget, he was on a different strategy to us. He went soft, medium, and he's now in front of us. So that's catastrophic for us now, as we're down into P6 now. Still got Gasly in front of us here on lap 23, but we're right on his gearbox now. Careful not to make any tangles, just like we did in the last season, if you remember. So round that corner, and we make the dive down the inside, and it's another position that we're up now into P5. And we've got our teammate just ahead of us, and we're currently in P5. Don't forget, we've got DRS now on our teammate. Can we make a move just like we did on Gasly into turn 11? And that's another position that we're up now into P4 as we look to make a redemption in this race to see if we can get back onto the podium like we deserve to be without that spin, as we've got Carlos Sainz and Bottas up ahead. And Bottas has got it in front of Sainz, so now we've got a chance down the main straight with DRS, with overtake, with rich mixture, what we've got in the tank, and we brake late, and we're up back into the podium positions now, into P3. But don't forget, we were in charge of this race up until that spin. We were into P1 until we got that spin, so unfortunately for us, it's going to be a P3 as we come across the line. Lando Norris wins his first ever Grand Prix, Bottas is second, and us having to take the final step on the podium.
It was a tough race at times, but they've held on to take a great victory for McLaren today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure, and no doubt they'll be celebrating tonight. So then, it's time to
So Lando Norris deservedly getting driver of the day and the win of the race. Moving up quite a lot through the grid up into P1. We obviously go from P1 to P3, so disappointing race for us, but still on the podium, still a good load of points. Another 15 points on the board, and as we look through the standings, we actually go top of the World Drivers' Championship after two races, shall I say, and we're 1 point ahead of second in Valtteri Bottas. So after the next race, we may have even a better chance of being up in the leaderboard. And as we go to the Constructors' Championship, we're also up into the first position by 1 point in front of Red Bull. So a great result for us, even though it was a disappointing race. We are up in the leaderboard But that's where we're going to end this episode. If you have enjoyed it, please like it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Any thoughts, please comment them down below. I've been at FeelThePaynePW. Goodbye.